Welcome to the blue moon of 2026. There's so much to talk about with this particular blue moon because it's once in a blue moon, right? So let's dive in. My name is Renee Massey. I am here to guide your journey in so many different ways as an astrologer, psychic medium, human design specialist, feminine embodiment, priestess leadership. I do a lot of different things. And today we are really going to focus in on the embodied astrology aspect of this journey. And so, what I like to do is I like to look at the different archetypal energies of the way the planets are speaking to one another, how they are navigating their own relationships with each other and among each other throughout the cosmos, and then how it impacts us because as above and so below, as within and so without, everything in our world is a mirror. And so it's not just that these planets are these big ginormous, balls of matter that are, floating through space. They carry power, they have a frequency. There's a resonance to them. I can probably Google this, look on YouTube, but something I had done years ago was I really loved listening to the sound frequencies of the planets. So with a very, very, very special instrument, they were able to capture the different vibrational sounds of each planet. So you know that Earth, there's a vibration to Earth, and it's typically on the 528 hertz frequency. And so you can look that up and you can tune into that frequency, and it has an impact. Sound about creation. Sound is creation. Okay. And so if you look really into like the ancient mysticism practices, like sound is related to creation. It's very connected into the feminine embodiment of creations. Each planet has its own sound frequency. And so you can tune into that, you can hear it. And there are certain sounds that probably feel really beautiful and floaty and magical. And then there are some that are very like grounding and really anchoring and stuff like that. And so it's fun and interesting to play around with because that we do have a relationship with the planets. We do have a relationship with our planet. We do have a relationship with the stars, with the constellations, with the asteroids, with the sun and the moon, and so many other celestial bodies. Like there is a connection because we are made of all of the materials that are also in the stars. We are made of 70, 80% water, which is directly connected to the moon and the tides of the planet. So to be on this journey and to also be willing to understand and just contemplate, it's not like you have to take everything that I'm saying and adopt it as your reality. I do this so that you can find your own resonance within it. So that there are things that speak to you, there are connections that are being made. Maybe there are things that you're going through in your life, and then it comes up in this particular conversation where you're able to be like, wow, I really feel that in my life. I can totally identify with where this is taking shape for me and this lands, right? So my instruction is really to just take in what works and what resonates and leave the rest. And then please make sure you subscribe. And then make sure that if there is anything that really speaks to you, or if there are any further questions and contemplations that you would like to address, please put them in the comments because I would love to respond to you. So let's dive into the blue moon. The blue moon is in Sagittarius and it is going to peak on Sunday, May 31st. But we're also looking at the fact that, blue moon energy is here on the 30th as well, because depending on the time zone that you're in, it can absolutely, I think, overlap. You know what I mean? Because I think it'll be around 4 something in the morning for Eastern time zone. Therefore, it's going to be like 1 for Pacific, and then any of those other time zones are going to probably see it a little bit earlier. So I don't want to eliminate anybody from this. So we're looking at May 30th and the 31st, but it's definitely peaking on the 31st. Some of the things that I wanted to talk about is that, I want to talk about blue moon, why it's different, and Sagittarius. So the thing with the blue moon is really special. And there's a reason why that's the saying of like once in a blue moon. A blue moon is the 13th moon of the year. And so we don't have a blue moon every single year, but I think it's been a long time since there was a year that I didn't notice a blue moon. It's not a guarantee that you're going to have a blue moon every year, but basically what it is that you have 2 full moons in the same month. In order for that to happen though, that first full moon would have to happen like in like the first day or two of the month, I would say, because a moon's cycle is 29 and a half days. So you go through an entire lunation period in 29 and a half days. So the second full moon would have to happen in the last couple of days of the month. And so that gives you, though, kind of like this portal because full moons are a symbol of closure and completion. It's like we've reached a place of completion. We are now kind of like in the release phase, right? So what we looked at for all of May, which I'm going to get into a little bit of that, but so much of what happened throughout May was us doing like these two layers of closure and completion and release. But I do want to say, before I take a sip of my coffee, that the blue moon energy to me feels much more gentle. And there are, multiple different components that play into that. There are probably some blue moons that have felt less gentle, depending on which constellation it's focused on, and then, the different retrogrades and the different aspects between the planets, because we're looking at patterns, we're looking at relationships, we're looking at angles so that we can understand like what is being embodied throughout the cosmos right now and how that's going to take shape in our own personal lives, right? So let's dive into that. So the blue moon, this particular blue moon that's going to be in Sagittarius, I love the fact that this blue moon is in Sagittarius because Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. So this is another thing that's kind of making me feel like this is going to be kind of a gentle cleansing and clearing as we're stepping into this completion phase. Because immutable signs tend to be just a little bit more passive. So they don't necessarily have the fixedness of like that fixed sign. That fixed sign wants to just like stay. It wants to just like, I'm anchoring in, it digs its heels in. And so that can be very stubborn energy. And it doesn't have the same energy of a cardinal sign. The cardinal signs are initiating and they are kicking things off. And that kind of ties into everything that we experience during Aries season. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's a cardinal fire. It kicks things off. It is the great initiator. And throughout what we experienced in this year's Aries season was we had like 7 different astrological placements all moving through Aries during Aries season. And Aries season, the spring equinox, is basically like the astrological new year because now we're kicking off a new wheel of the year, and it begins in March as soon as we go through the spring equinox. Um, so going into spring, passing the threshold of the equinox, moving into Aries, initiation, independence, acceleration, there was this massive cluster of celestial bodies that were all moving through Aries and really kicking things off for us, right? But the initiation couldn't be anchored in, right? Like, we all felt that. We felt like the initiation could not necessarily be anchored in because we were also going through the eclipse portal, right? So lots of new beginnings, lots of releasing, lots of change and transition. I have not seen so much rapid fire change and transition in a while. And I do believe that, there are multiple factors that are contributing to this, right? We had that massive stellium within Aries this year with like I said, 7 celestial bodies all moving through. That's a very concentrated, focused energy all within Aries. We are in Fire Horse. And so I understand that when we interpret like Fire Horse energy, there's some of us that probably interpret that as like, this momentum equals results. And in some ways, that momentum does equal results, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to equal the results that you are wanting it to equal, right? Like, there is also that momentum is not just about you getting what you want faster. And so that's something that I think is just really important to address within the year of the fire horse, the 1 year, is that yes, we're on this new path. There's a lot of initiation that's happening. There's a lot of awakening that's happening. There's a lot of change that's happening. But with all of this rapid fire change and initiation and momentum building, that does not necessarily mean that you reach the finish line faster. I think what it actually means, because what I've experienced and what I've observed and the different insights that I've received in my own meditations and prayer have really pointed to the fact that like we're moving through things much faster. So there is an accelerated process that is happening on this planet right now that is like going full throttle where you are encountering the discomfort, you're encountering like, I gotta make the move, you're encountering the like, I've got to move into trust, I've got to have faith, I've got to like release this doubt, I've got to release this pain, I've got to release this wounding, I've got to come face to face, I've got to function with more discernment, I've got to release judgment, I've got to give myself grace, I've got to be compassionate. Like there are different things that are showing up, but it's not happening in like this very slow, like oh, this beautiful little cascading way. It is happening like fire horse. It is like boom, boom, boom. Where I felt last year with Snake, it was a lot of the shedding, right? But we experienced that shedding in a very slow process. To me, it felt slow. What I watched my clients go through felt like watching paint dry, because it was like I could feel the direction. I could feel like, okay, this is the alignment. But it is requiring an astronomical amount of patience. And so between last year and this year, we have confronted so many shadow identities. We have confronted so much fear within us. And confrontation or confronting it is obviously a strong word because passively and peacefully and curiously, I could say, we're encountering these parts of ourselves. But I don't think that there's a lot of people that know how to encounter the parts of themselves that they consistently resist with like a curiosity and a passive encounter, like, oh, hello, it's you again. This is a little uncomfortable, but I'm okay because I'm going to trust this and I'm going to have a conversation with you and try to understand what it is that you're trying to tell me, what it is that you're trying to protect me from. Because I have found that when I'm able to really connect into that inner voice, that inner child, and this is something that I use with my clients as well, we can really have some very powerful transformational conversations because it's like, well, what do you need? What is it that you need? What are you afraid of? And if you listen, if you really feel and listen in to that inner sanctum, that inner wisdom, the answers are there. I promise you. And what things that I have heard for myself though are like, I need space. I need time. I need love. I need comfort. I need peace. I just need things to stop, right? And it's like, okay, well, maybe give this over to me. Trust me. I've got you. I'm going to take care of you. I love you. I'm holding space for you. I'm holding you. I'm literally holding you inside of me. So, really bringing comfort to that part of yourself that feels so resistant because there's a lot of there are things in my life that fit, but I don't really fit in my life right now. There's things that feel like relationships are changing. It's Pluto retrograde. I consistently, consistently see every Pluto retrograde. I know that there's going to be massive changes in like jobs. Pluto retrograde brings out like job changes. Somebody's quitting, somebody's getting promoted, somebody's getting fired, somebody's leaving or walking away because they want to start a new business, because they're choosing a new path, because there has been this internal power struggle or control dynamic that kind of peaks and reaches this climax that is like, okay, and now I'm done. Now I'm not doing this anymore. I'm no longer signing up for this. I am no longer in agreement with this dynamic. And so that is so much of what has been happening for us is this identity transmutation, this identity metamorphosis. It's like last year we shed, we shed and we shed and we shed and we shed. And some of it felt like, nails across the chalkboard, watching paint dry. It just felt slow and agonizing. And if you're not like organically just a very patient person, it probably felt very frustrating for you. So, like, I have a lot of air and fire in my chart. I had a lot of frustration last year. And and it's not that I'm not feeling frustrated with different things that are happening this year, but it's a different kind of frustration because I think that things are just moving a little bit more rapid fire. And honestly, it's like that is something that I kind of enjoy. I like rapid fire. I like quick, swift movement. But again, that's because I also have a lot of fire and air in my chart and very little earth, very little water. And so somebody who might have more water and earth in their chart, this might feel uncomfortable for you because you're feeling like constantly, every time you turn the corner, you are confronting an emotion that feels really difficult or a stubborn mindset issue that you feel like you just cannot break out of. And as fire and air signs are also probably experiencing the same thing, but it's like, I've got this passion, I've got this drive. I want to build this momentum, but I need it to land somewhere. I need something to give me a result. I need to be able to see the results. I need to know that I have the evidence that I'm making the right moves and that I'm on the right path. And I also just believe that so much of that, especially with this May energy, with these two full moons, there has been a lot of stuff that has cleared away as new things are coming in. And so, this dichotomy within us, this split, right? This dualistic nature, this is where I think we're being very compromised is that we're looking at, okay, so I'm creating here, and this feels really good. And I can feel how my intuition is also guiding me down this path. But then I also see how these things over here are kind of falling apart, don't really feel in alignment anymore. I feel like I'm outgrowing it, feel like I don't like it anymore, feeling like it's just a huge pivot for me, like it's boring. I don't like it. I hate it. I need to burn it down. I've outgrown it. It's no longer fitting. I no longer desire it, like all of those kinds of things. And I think that this has been one of the ultimate challenges for humanity is holding the dichotomy because very often what happens is something will be challenging. We will take that challenging thing and then we will spiderweb it across our entire day, week, month, like our entire life, right? So maybe a couple of hard things happen in the morning while you're getting ready for work or whatever you're doing. And then you kind of decided that today's going to be a shit day, that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. You know what I mean? This is where the power of your choice really does come in. And what I have found though is that a lot of people don't feel like they have choice. It's like, well, based on things that I've experienced, this is really hard. And I kind of have to just prepare myself for all of the other really hard stuff that is going to happen because the fact that these couple of hard things have happened are already signs that these other hard things are pretty much just waiting for me. Right. But we don't, it's not actually evidence. It's not true evidence. It's our own interpretation of the evidence. And so that's why, like, you can have multiple different people going through the same exact experience, but each person is going to interpret it very different. So if you go through that really hard, morning and things are kind of wonky and wobbly and you're frustrated, you have a choice to say, okay, this was hard. This was not ideal, right? Like we can admit that. It's okay. Do not positive, like be into that toxic positivity where you're bypassing the true feeling of I feel frustrated in this present moment. I feel frustrated and I don't like the way this feels. But do I need to carry this frustration with me throughout the rest of the day? Is that a fact that I have to prepare for all of these other hard things to happen throughout the day? And so I should just expect it. And so because now I expect it, now I have to be in this very defensive, self protective mode because I already had a couple of hard things happen this morning versus I had a couple things hard happen. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't great, but I'm going to make the best of the rest of this day because I know that things can actually change very quick. Things can actually improve. My stock can go up. Things can actually spring back. They can have an upswing. There's literally no fact or no truth around the fact that that can happen. And so it's really just asking yourself, what have I decided? What have I made my truth? What have I adopted and allowed myself to go into agreement with in regards to these different things that happen in my day? Right. So, like, contemplate that for a moment. S- What I want to touch base on next, because I do have notes. Blue moon is also very closely associated with a deep feminine energy because the 13th moon of the year is the blue moon. We are guaranteed to have 12 lunations a year that go through the entire wheel of the year, through each astrological sign and constellation. But that 13th moon is the blue moon. It's the extra one. And so there's definitely some affiliations that I feel because 13 is a feminine number. 13 is the Mary Magdalene number, is the Mary. Like, it is also affiliated with the Holy Grail and the Knights Templar and, a lot of different things within humanity where 13 was considered to be this really, like, dangerous number, right? Like, they don't even want buildings to have, like, a 13th floor or something, so they'll remove that number from the elevator, which is just kind of crazy. But I also think it's because of what people have made it mean, right? Kind of piggybacking on what I was just saying about the way that we have our own divine will, we have our own personal choice to make things mean what we want them to mean. There are things that I could say to you and be like, "Well, this is what this means," and you can take that or leave it. There's no forcing these ideologies or anything onto you. It's like something resonates or it doesn't resonate. Now, fear tends to be something that greatly resonates with most people. So when, it's a Friday the 13th, when it's the number 13, there's a lot of superstition around it. But the truth of it is when you really look at, ancient mysticism and storytelling and the way that, people would gather and share these experiences together, this number is a sacred number, and the blue moon is very much affiliated with a peaceful form of completion. It's an understanding that certain chapters are closing, but they don't have to close in this abrupt way. It's making and to me, it's about making peace. To me, this also feels very much like Mother Mary energy, Isis energy, that blue energy of peace and communication and wisdom and, just that beautiful, loving, energetic blue frequency coming into our lives. And it's very much like throat chakra energy as well, because this is how it's about expression. And so with the blue moon, now we have this opportunity to really touch into this very peaceful expression. It doesn't have to be where we are forcefully expressing ourselves because we feel like we have to scream at people, because we felt unheard, because we felt insignificant, because a truth that we had within us was buried and now it's ready to emerge to the surface and be released. I think this is really just about like being in your body, like really being in your body. Feel your spine, feel your tailbone, feel the way that your seat is supported. I feel like this is a very powerful alchemy because all of May we've been growing and we've been shedding and we've been growing and we've been shedding. And that's what I was saying with dichotomy is that you can hold both. You can have a thing that was difficult that happened and also not let it bleed into all of the good stuff that's happening over here. And the potential for more stuff to happen over here because we kind of like if this hard stuff is happening, we've kind of decided that all of this stuff is either not real or we're going to lose it or we can't even put our focus on there because it distracts us from all of the hard stuff that we have to focus on, and so we'll completely bypass the good stuff because we're like, I have to think about all the hard stuff because I have to protect something, I have to defend something, I have to be a guardian to myself, to my energy, to my finances, to my work, to my family, to whatever it is that's going in just a difficult way, right? Whatever's going in a difficult way. But you can hold both. And I really do think that that's a message in this blue moon. Just because I'm feeling it. It's kind of coming through me as the channel that this blue moon is about a state of completion, but it's a peaceful completion. This is about getting back into your body. This is about allowing like a deeper release and transformation to take place. But like the alchemy of it is supported by the blue moon. Okay. And it's so interesting because so much of like the alchemy work that I've done, any of the texts that I have really read within Count Saint Germain alchemy, because he's like the ultimate alchemist. He's an ascended master and I work very closely with him. But when he is presenting something, he always presents it in this blue light. The alchemy, the manifestation, it's always this beautiful blue, just a beautiful blue, and it feels beautiful, and it feels heavenly and harmonious, and that's the energy that I really do feel for this particular moon. But the other component of it with Sagittarius is the fact that Sag is very expansive. So Sag being that mutable fire that is ruled by Jupiter, rules the it is intense. enthusiastic and passionate, but not in the same way that Aries is and not the same way that Leo is. They're both they're all three of them are passionate fire signs that have this charge, this charged energy within them because that's what the fires do, right? They are driving at something. And so the difference with how Sagittarius does it is like there's just like this very outgoing, expansive nature about them. It's like they want to be able to spread all of that passionate fire around because the truth is that they don't walk around with blinders on. They're very like they're looking at everything that's going on. They are good observers to all of the different things that are happening in their environment. And their symbol, the centaur archer, is like he's shooting that arrow and it's going out into the dream. It's like shooting high, shooting far. It might feel like it's just this ideal thing, right? Like I just have an idea. There's an ideology that I connect with, and I'm putting myself on this trajectory. And so Sag does not shoot its arrow like, oh, it just like lands like 5 feet away. It is going up high. It is going far. It arches. And then you gotta go get it, right? So it's like, now I have to move. There is an adventurous nature to Sagittarius. There is a sporty and outdoorsy nature to Sagittarius. They are philosophers. They have very, very strong morals in terms of I think that they have developed a lot of different personal philosophies that they live by. But it's about ethics and it's about being, good and doing right by other people. It is about higher level education, about spiritual growth and also expanding in those areas as well. So Sagittarius rules the ninth house. Sagittarius rules the ninth house of higher learning, philosophy, morality, just being outgoing, sharing and moving things into success and good fortune. Like that's what they're driven to do. One of the challenges, though, of Sagittarius energy is that they can get very scattered, right? So, like I said, they're observing everything in their environment. They get very passionate and driven and very outgoing and enthusiastic, and they want to learn and they have philosophy and they want to grow and they're shooting that arrow. But one of the hard parts about Sagittarius energy is that they can be like everywhere and nowhere all at once. So it's like, having a lot of irons in the fire, feeling like you have a lot of different things going on. It can feel very ADHD because of the fact that like Sag doesn't want to be bored. Sag just wants to keep going. Sag is trying to, again, drive that arrow, wants to find that arrow, it wants to go collect the arrow. It needs to know where it is. It needs to know how to get there. So there's a lot of different pathways. There's a lot of different opportunities. There's a lot of different potential. And that is what can pull Sag away from focus. Okay. Because it's difficult, I think, for Sag to really focus. And because their energy is so expansive and always going outward, sometimes it's very difficult for Sagittarius energy to be introspective and self reflective. Sagittarians can sometimes feel like they're not really connecting with their own inner obstacles in the most cohesive way because every time they connect with something, it almost feels like their energy pulls them outside of themselves. Like, oh, I have to go and do this now. I have to go learn about this. I have to go try that. And at the same time, it's like, but we want you also taking time to really reflect within you. They're very, very busy. I get along very, very well with Sagittarius, and I have 3 placements in Sagittarius, and I absolutely get scattered. And so I completely understand what Sag energy does and how it is very outgoing and it's fun and it's playful and it's all of those things. But if Sag doesn't get a hold on their scatteredness, they waste a lot of time and energy, and that can lead to a lot of frustration. So let's look at some of the deeper things that want to show up for us during this blue moon, because now we're going to look at the different supporting aspects. Okay. Which there's just a few, but every full moon, you're going to see the sun opposing the moon. In order to have a full moon, you have to have the sun and the moon at opposite sides of the sky, opposite sides of the zodiac. So they are at a 180 or so degree opposition. And so in a perfect opposition, you have an eclipse. Okay. But we don't have an eclipse. We have a blue moon. So they are at an opposition of each other. And that means that the sun is fully illuminating the moon. The sun is masculine, the moon is feminine. The sun is consciousness and the moon is intuition and emotion. And so now they are staring face to face at each other, right? So new moon, sun is in the same side of the sky as the sun and the moon are together. Okay, that's a conjunction. So the sun and the moon are together. That's why the moon is completely blacked out, is because it has to start moving away from the sun to start to be illuminated by the sun. So when you really think about like the archetypal energy about this, it makes so much sense because it's like, okay, the sun and the moon have been together. They've unified, they've compounded their energy together, and now they have planted a seed of creation in the darkness because that's where creation takes place. You just need that little spark, the little spark of divinity, right? That spark of creation. But it happens in the dark. It doesn't happen in the light. So that creation happens. And then as the moon is moving away from the sun, it starts to become more illuminated. You have your crescent, you have your half moon, you have your full moon. That is over here, opposition. And now it is fully illuminated. It is fully pregnant, right? Like it is ready to pop out the moon. And that moon, that full moon, staring with these two beautiful celestial bodies staring through each other, this is where we get to harmonize because she's saying, I have reached a place of completion within myself. I am ready to give birth. You know, like we created this spark here and now I've traveled to be completely face to face with you. And now I have reached completion. I'm at the summit. I'm climaxing in this experience. Now it's time to release energy, right? So it's like giving birth to something. And that's something that I don't think a lot of astrologers maybe, well, I focus on the fact that like there is an archetypal journey that is very connected to us and very connected to pretty much everything. Like it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a plant, could be a fruit, could be a vegetable, could be a flower, could be an herb, could be an animal, a bird, a fish, something like an element. Like we have archetypes, endless archetypes everywhere, all around us. It's just being able to step back and really see it, right? And observe like how can I what is this experience I can also embody that they're demonstrating? And so, like, this is now the harmonization through that release. Then things get recalibrated through that release. And then a few days after the release is when we kind of hit this like emotional plummet. And it's interesting because if you've ever had a baby, you know that like your hormones are keeping you going and keeping things semi-stable, right? You needed a lot of hormones throughout your pregnancy. And then a few days after you've given birth, there is like, I mean, the hormones dip immediately after you give birth, but you don't tend to really feel the impact of it, or at least I didn't until like a few days later. And it's just interesting, right? Because we know that the moon is extremely feminine. We know that her fullness is like giving birth. And we know that like a couple of days after giving birth, we also start experiencing the effects of that dip of our hormones. And if you pay attention to it, because the energy peaks, right? During that full moon, now all of that energy is dropping. And that is why we tend to feel more tired, more emotional, just a little bit more drained, right? Like we just want to feel comforted. We might just want to like snuggle in the blankets in a dark room, like watching comfortable, like movies that are comforting, listening to music that feels soothing to you, you know, just doing things that are very much more like low key, like you are not super charged up and ready to go. You don't tend to feel that way a couple days after the full moon. So pay attention to it. Like, let me know how that works for you. Because I know that I actually schedule out now. I do my sessions and I do my work and everything like that, but I do not take on anything extra than I absolutely have to the week after the full moon because I know how my energy impacts me. And I fought against it for a really long time. I would get very frustrated with myself and I would say, like, who cares that the moon happened? You know what I mean? Like, you still have work to do. This is when I was in my very masculine era. I still have work to do. It's not going to get done if I don't do it. Like, so what? The moon is affecting me. You have to just buckle down, mind over matter, get it done, push yourself harder. And that is the opposite of what I recommend now because I've gone through that journey though. I had to ask myself, like, as a woman who goes through a cyclical journey every month, and I do not reset every day, why would I put myself through that? And then I had to look at what I learned about business and money and service and responsibility and pressure and taking things on and different agreements that I have made with myself based on what I believed I have to do it this way if I'm going to be successful. If I don't do it this way, this is me dropping the ball. This is me basically agreeing to failure. Like such insane things that I have thought because of the pressure that I felt to make sure everything is good and perfect and getting done and don't want to drop the ball and don't want to fail and don't want to make a mistake. And these are the systems that have been breaking down. Okay. Because it's interesting. Like that was a huge part of what I went through last year. And I'm not there anymore. Like I'm not there. Now I'm somewhere else. I'm navigating the next layer. So there's like this whole other, encounter that I'm experiencing, but it's very good because I asked myself, I was like, do I feel like the density of what I carried in my body last year, the things that I had to heal, the things that I had to overcome, the things that I had to really be very honest and raw truth with myself. Like, am I still there? And it was very much like, no, you're somewhere else now. And you're navigating a whole new layer of something. But it's very good and it's very developmental. So like I know that a lot of this identity shifting and outgrowing of old systems is feels strange because there's a part of you that has been wanting to outgrow these systems for a very long time. But in your mind, it was going to be fun and easy and exciting and very liberating. But what's happening in your body is resistance and just this feeling of fear and doubt and uncertainty, this lack of clarity. And then just like, I don't know if I can trust this. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's on the other side. I don't know if I'm making the wrong decisions right now or if everything it feels wrong because it doesn't feel good in my body. But at the same time, can it still feel resistant and yucky in my body, but actually lead me to my greatest thing because the yucky thing that feels in my body is actually related to the egoic fear that's trying to keep me trapped in the land of comfort, right? We've got to grow. And to grow, we've got to be able to experience the discomfort of growing. Those are growing pains. So let's embrace some of those growing pains. And if anybody feels like they are really going through a lot of growing pains right now, there are definitely some opportunities to step into my world. Like I did the workshop of Phoenix Rising, which is very, very related to a lot of the energies that are happening right now. I am about to open Codes of the Phoenix, which is going to be a 21-day Telegram coaching container that at the end of it on July 1st, we are going to be doing a live group container, kind of like an integration intensive experience. And if anybody chooses that they really want like a one-on-one, they really want some personal time, they want personal focus, customization, I am also offering one-on-one sessions. So please make sure you reach out if any of those things feel in alignment based on what you're going through right now, right? Or if you have questions about what is involved or in any of those things. So let's look at some of these other aspects. Mars square Pluto. So Mars square Pluto is a doozy. Only because the last time that Mars was square Pluto in the way that it is exactly right now was basically 258 years ago, which was when the Bastille fell. Like literally the same astrological alignment. Mars is in Mars is in Taurus, Pluto's in Aquarius. So they're both like in this very interesting dynamic right now. And they were at the same degree that they are right now in this square as when the Bastille fell in Paris in 17 something, which was about 4 years before the monarchy fell. So it really did tripwire a lot of stuff, and it tripwired a lot of revolution because that transit also impacted things within our country. What we're looking at is, oh, and because Uranus is also in Gemini. Uranus was in Gemini in the Revolutionary War as well. Okay. So like that's big stuff. It's like when I'm looking at different things of history and I'm looking at patterns, it's like it's not going to fall together exactly the same way that it did all of those years ago. But there are things to pay attention to and be like, wow, okay, so when this happened, when these were here, this is something that happened in the world events, and that tripwired, some of these other things. And now I also see some similarities here with this. And it's just to take note. It's just to be an observer and get curious about these patterns because of the fact that, like, when we don't learn from history, it tends to repeat itself, doesn't it? So we don't want history necessarily repeating itself. But I do feel that we're in a phase of revolution, but I also feel like we're in a phase of inner revolution. I don't necessarily think it's just this collective experience of wanting to break down old systems. And I think that each of us are also on our own individual path of discovering authenticity and true beliefs and an alignment through a very powerful awakening that's happening right now on this planet. And Pluto and Mars together are very, like, to me, they're pretty combustible because Mars is the god of war and Pluto is the god of the underworld. So when the two of them are involved, like, that there's going to be a very massive shift, like a transformation that's taking place. The fact that they're square means that they're adding tension to get to the end result. It's not necessarily like this beautiful harmonious flow into the transformation. It's kind of like forcing you to look at things, embody things that have probably been kind of uncomfortable for you to embody. And when I'm talking about embody, it means like literally feeling your entire body holding it, not just in your head, not an intellectual connection to something. So it's not just thinking about how your life is going to be transformed. It's literally feeling in your body a transformation taking place. And that doesn't mean cellular transformation. I'm talking about the emotions in your body, the alignment within your body, the trust, the cohesiveness, the coherency that is within the body when you hold yourself within your vessel, when you're not trying to just stay in the upper energy. And you can tell by feel your tailbone right now. Can you feel your tailbone? Can you connect into the base of your spine? Does it feel different than how you felt a couple minutes ago? Can you tell how, like, you don't usually drop into your body this deeply, that you normally just kind of keep the energy around your head and maybe into your heart, but maybe not. Like, it really just depends on how low you let that energy go. Because a lot of the times for those lower chakras, because they are the original chakras, the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, these are the earth-based chakras that are related to your human. Like, they are the survival, they are the trust, they are the personal power, the confidence, the interpersonal connections, the courage, the safety, the stability. And so those are the ones that are created over the earlier formative years. And so I feel like when we've had a lot of unresolved emotional trauma or experiences, we tend to stay out of that region because it feels very uncomfortable. But in order for you to embody something, you have got to be able to hold it in your body safely. Okay. Not just an idea in your head. And you notice there is a dichotomy between something that you say you're going to do because you believe that you are worthy of this, right? I want this. I'm going to do it, blah, blah, blah. But then when it comes time to doing it, if you're just kind of still putting around and you're creating a lot of other distractions and excuses for yourself to not do it, and then you feel like there's this wall, right? Like, no, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. I don't feel like doing it. No, I can't do it. No, 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 no. That is a sign of disembodied. Okay, when your head is governing over the body, but the body is still calling a lot of the shots. So it's just something to be aware of, something to be discerning of, okay? Because I I spent many years not really being in my body because of different things that had happened to me. And also because I'm psychic and I do astral travel and projections and remote viewing and can bilocate myself. And so it was very easy for me to not be in my body and having a panic disorder and PTSD and extreme anxiety and agoraphobia. I didn't want to be in my body. So working with Mary Magdalene, working with very embodied goddesses that appreciate the human. That was what really set me on the path of getting back in my body, healing through the body, and learning how to love through the body. So if anybody is interested in any of those teachings, please connect with me. It is amazing and it's life changing. But there is a very physical experience to Mars. It rules Aries. Okay. So it has a deep connection to Aries energy. But that deep connection to Aries, Aries is very physical. It's very in the body. It's very sexual. It has to move. It has to keep going in some way because it has a lot of fire to burn off. And I understand about that because my moon is in Aries. And so I am very active. I exercise every morning. If I don't, the energy starts to build up into tension. And I feel like I have to find a way to release it. Right. And it helps run through the mental energy. Like it's just very, very, very positive. But with Pluto being the transformation, it's like we're being confronted with some inner tension right now that's going to support this death and rebirth situation. So it can feel like trying to squeeze something through the birth canal, not so comfortable, but results in absolute beauty and magic. So there's got to be some trust in this process. Okay. Is the Mars square Pluto, especially because Pluto is in retrograde. So when Pluto's in retrograde, it really does pull the veil back. It's like, no, we're going to look at this. No, we're going to look at this. We're going to go deeper. We're going to go deeper. We need to look at it deeper. We need a freaking magnifying glass. We need a microscope. We're going to amplify. We're going to magnify. We're going to look at it and forensically dig around and find out where there is truth and where there is untruth, because it forensically sees everything. And so it's more related to emotions. Pluto is, when it's digging around, it's definitely related to more psychological and emotional components, where Aries is more physical. So I feel that with this Mars square Pluto transit during this full moon, what we are going to be offered is an opportunity to really transform some very deep inner misalignments that have been creating blockage and resistance, and you under the illusion of some false truth, you not being able to see your potential, you not being able to own your power and your authority because you have been reacting to the shadows and reacting to the shadows and reacting to the shadows and reacting to the shadows. And this one now gives you an opportunity to blend the shadows in with the rest of you by shining light into the shadow. Okay, that blue moon, that blue light. I want you to think about it that way, that this blue light is illuminating me from within, and it is shining a beautiful blue light of peace and calm into all of the darkness within me, because we have light and darkness, and the darkness is not to be feared. The darkness is not to be rejected. That's part of the problem, is that we are so used to judging and punishing that when we encounter aspects of us that are less than perfect or what we want to showcase to the world, we're very mean. We're very, very mean. I mean, I see it all the time on social media and on the internet and just in the digital world, how mean people are because of a difference in opinion about politics or religion or spirituality or sexual orientation. Like, there's so many things that people just decide you're wrong and I'm right, and then want to make you feel really bad about being wrong. There's a lot of correctness and incorrectness in this world. I just think it's interesting the way that man takes up this charge as the judge and the punisher, right? Like, who is the judge and the punisher? Why does it have to be judgment and punishment? Why is this the way that we've been taught to think? Why is this the indoctrination? This is where we really get to examine some of those things and how they're held within the body. So, are you feeling it more in your lower chakras? Are you feeling it more in your heart? Are you feeling it in your womb? Are you feeling it in, your throat and how you express yourself? Are you feeling it more in how you allow yourself to receive, you know, divine intervention and connect with your angels and guides and stuff like that? Everybody's carrying it somewhere in their body and in different ways. So now it's just really being able to figure out what that is and allowing yourself to illuminate from within. And that means to embrace the darkness, to embrace the shadows, because no matter what, like, they're still a part of you. You cannot reject them and walk away from them in the way that you think you can. That just doesn't work. You will get triggered. A trigger is just an unfinished experience, an unprocessed experience. And so the fact that you have so many incomplete experiences living within the body, within the nervous system, means that there's going to be a lot of triggers, And so, but how are you going to respond to those? Are you going to take responsibility, or are you going to continue to get upset and storm off and want to burn it to the ground and give up and just feel like it's everybody else's problem that you feel the way that you do? Because that's also a very real thing too for a lot of people. But the beauty of this blue moon, aside from it being blue moon in Sagittarius, is that we have Uranus sextile Neptune and we have Sun sextile Saturn. So these are the last two that I'm really going to get into. Uranus it's at 2 degrees with still facing Sedna, still doing its thing with Sedna, radical awakening, radical breakthroughs, radical breaking down. With Neptune, which is the higher consciousness, the higher awareness of the higher realms. There is such a depth to Neptune. It is psychic, it is mystical, it is intuitive, it is imaginary. And so, what I really, in the sextiles are very harmonious. Love seeing a sextile. So, these last two aspects are sextiles. And so, what I really feel for the Uranus sextile Neptune is that this is an awakening of gifts, right? This is breaking through illusions. This is you being able to actually see something so radically clear that you can never unsee it. You can never go back. You will never be the same kind of energy. Okay. And then with the sun sextile Saturn, I love it because like the sun, consciousness, Saturn, responsibility, karma, hard work, ethics, discipline, focus. This is beautiful because not only do we have these awakening of the gifts and the breaking through of these illusions and then finding the path of this beautiful physical transformation from within you, now we get to like close some of these karmic doors, because I believe that with the sun, that consciousness, flowing really beautifully with this very ethical planet of Saturn, we're allowing ourselves to take radical self responsibility, which is needed, because a lot of the times the discomfort that we feel in our lives, we tend to blame on other external factors. And it is time to not blame yourself, but to really look within to find out what is true, what is false, what is a fact, what is an illusion. What stories have I created? Because you've created stories. I've created stories. And so I've had to look at those stories. And that's literally what I've been doing for the past several days, is looking at the stories, because I just intuitively felt it. It was like something shifting. I can feel it. I have to really look at these different stories that I tell. So what I would do is ask myself, okay, what do you want to do? And start moving in that direction. If there's resistance, then I would say, okay, what's the story around this? What do I believe is true or not true about me, about my identity, about what's possible for me? Oh, because something happened before, now it's going to happen again. Oh, because it's never happened for me this way, I'm never going to be able to do it this way. So I had to really look at some of these very intense stories. And they are stories within my business, they are stories within my personal life, they are stories within my relationships, but they are stories. And from all sorts of different perspectives, the story changes. And the one thing that I can tell you that Sag absolutely loves is perspective. Sagittarius, because it has this big open view of everything, like I said, it has like this very big expansive energy. It has this ability to observe from different perspectives, different angles. Okay. And that is what is going to be gained through all of this is a very, very different perspective based on a very powerful awakening, based on a tremendous, beautiful closure of chapters, of closing karmic ties, of taking radical responsibility, of balancing the masculine and feminine energetics within you, alchemizing these shadows into light, right? That's the beauty of this journey. So I do wanna pull a card. I felt like today's the perfect time to pull a card. We're gonna pull a goddess card because I wanted to just this is such a beautiful moon, and I just felt inspired and felt it was like an intuitive thing, like, "I gotta grab my deck for this." So this is the Goddess Power Oracle deck by Claire Reed. I love this deck. I work with this deck very frequently because it just gives me insight. It just gives me feedback, insight, it gives me a theme, like, "Okay, this is something to focus on today." It's especially helpful during times of uncertainty or where you feel like you might be a little foggy and not seeing super clear. Working with, oracle or tarot cards are really helpful because they kind of help you see what you can't see. So I always say, like, I don't know what I don't know. None of us know what we don't know. So it's like if I'm feeling like a little uncertain or I'm looking for a little extra inspiration, I can work with the cards and they kind of help me see what I can't see and know what I don't know. So, oh, I love this. So Oshun. Oshun is I'm just gonna hold it up so you can see it. But Oshun, she is an African goddess that it's about fertility, it's about abundance. I believe she's very connected to rivers and waterways, like waterways that are moving water, like a river. And so what she does is she bestows she's a goddess of generosity, okay? And so there's always goodness. There are resources that are always available to you, have always been available to you and continue to be available to you. And there are because they are there, we take them for granted. And we kind of miss some of the big picture because we're very busy with all of the details and all of the details and all of the details. But her message is to give freely of yourself, to be very generous and kind in your heart, which I do really feel ties into a lot of the messaging that's going on right now. Because when you feel like you don't know what to do for yourself, the gift is to do something for somebody else. And I do feel that when we are functioning on that wavelength, that is where we start to really turn the corner, reclaim ourselves, empower ourselves. We feel really amazing about the gifts that we've been able to provide for other people. It just fills your heart to do good things for other people. And so Oshun's message is that while you're busy focusing on all of the little details of your life, really just be of service, be kind, be compassionate, give of yourself, give what you no longer need, just give. And know that like you're always going to be taken care of. You're always supported because the truth is that there's plenty to go around for everyone. And sometimes when we get into these elements of uncertainty, and it can also tripwire this feeling of instability, which can also tripwire this fear of the unknown because I don't feel super solid and I don't feel like I have control. And so we start micromanaging, we start like constricting, we start shrinking ourselves. And that's the opposite of what we want to do because that never actually leads to the goal. That just puts you in a box. It just puts you in a box of confinement because there's a part of you that doesn't want to be seen or it doesn't feel safe to be heard. But it's all about like how you might be hiding because you don't want something exposed that doesn't feel safe to you. But when you give of your heart, when you are generous, when you are kind, when you donate, when you help somebody else in need, especially when you're not able to help yourself, it is some of the best medicine of this world. It truly is like the best medicine of this world because this is how you can also really start rearranging from within, meaning you start looking at your life through a lens of love. You start looking at your life through a lens of abundance. You start really appreciating the little things because you notice how plentiful and abundant life is. Because a lot of times we focus on what's not here because it's very easy to focus on what's not here. That's not a judgment. It's just a human thing because we're human and it's okay to be human. It's actually really good to be human because humans are great. But when we are constricting in fear, we're not so great because we have lost sight of the big picture and we have allowed fear and scarcity to create separation. And there is no separation. So it's just really an illusion of your ego. So, taking all of this in, I'm going to invite you to please share comments about what this has felt like. I'm going to invite you to do some journaling to really navigate some of these things that have been discussed on this call. And for anybody who is really interested in jumping into Phoenix Rising, Codes of the Phoenix, or jumping into a one on one session, please email me, DM me. I am opening up sessions because big stuff is happening. Other than that, sending you so much love during this beautiful blue moon in Sagittarius and happy releasing, happy manifesting. So much love. Bye for now.